Welcome back. Paella is probably the most famous dish to come out of Spain, but it's really simple and it's packed with flavour. There's a few stories about where the word comes from, but I think the most likely one is the Latin word Paella, which means pan. And considering this is cooked and served in just one pan, that's probably the most likely story. To make it, you're going to need capsicum, onion, carrot, celery and garlic, a chorizo sausage, some pork. Here I've just got a marinara mix. So normally you put prawns, scallops, mussels and some fish, but all of these things are all in the marinara mix at your local deli. So that's your best bet, nice and quick. Some rice. I've part cooked this to make everything a bit quicker. Some saffron and smoked paprika. Some tomato paste, olive oil and salt. And most importantly, a nice solid dish to cook it in. Here I'm just using a casserole dish, but you can use a tagine or you can even buy special paella pans. So as always, to start off with, we're going to do our onion and garlic. So just chop that up, nice and rough. It's a very rustic dish, this one, and it's actually a peasant dish, so you don't want to try and make it too fancy. In goes our onion, and we'll pop a bit of oil in there as well now. You don't want your dish too hot because the last thing you want is to burn the things onto the bottom. So you need to make sure that you've just got a nice gentle heat. Now in goes our sliced garlic. I'm using really beautiful extra virgin olive oil today and you can smell it coming out now. So next up, some celery. The reason why this veg is really important in the base is that because this dish is all cooked in one pan, all of these flavours get incorporated into the rice. So this is sort of like putting vegetables in your stock. So dicing them up again. You also want to make sure that it doesn't have to be very neat, but you want your vegetables to be nice and small so they've got a really good chance of cooking properly. Doesn't matter if they overcook, but it does matter if they undercook. So if you're in doubt, just cut them a little bit smaller. Making sure you keep giving that a stir and that there's plenty of oil. So lastly for our veg, some capsicum. Normally if you're going to put chilli into this dish, then you would add it at this point, but as you probably know by now, I'm not a massive fan on chilli, so it stays out of mine. And what we're making now is called a sofrito, which is the base. And this is because this is the base of the dish and it's what gives it its really deep flavour. So that's coming along nicely. And we move on to our chorizo sausage next. With chorizo, it's really important to take the skin off. So always just give it a quick peel like this because it can stay quite tough and quite chewy. And because we're not cooking this dish for very long, it definitely won't have a chance to break down. So just taking that out a layer off. Sometimes it's easier than others. There we go, beautiful. So now just nice slices with this. This gives it a really beautiful smoky flavour, this does. And also adds a little bit of hardiness to it as well. So dicing this up just like our vegetables. So in goes our chorizo and we'll get that frying away. This is soaking up some of the oil, so I'm just going to put some more in to make sure it doesn't burn. So in here I've just got some saffron and some smoked paprika. The saffron's going to give it an amazing colour and the paprika is going to give it a beautiful smoky flavour as well. So make sure you toast your spices now, just nice and quick. We'll also add some salt now just so I don't forget it. So stirring those all through nice and quick. That's long enough. We'll add our tomato paste. So the tomato paste helps to thicken this dish up a little bit, but it also gives it a fantastic flavour and it also helps give it a beautiful colour too. But you don't want to go overboard with it, just a couple of teaspoons. But we need to toast that as well, just to get rid of that really raw acidic flavour. So now that your tomato paste is cooked out, just take it off the heat for a moment. Now what we want to do here is just spread it out, because this is the base of our dish and we just want it to sit on the bottom. So just spread it out evenly across so you get a nice thin layer. So now what we want to do is add our rice. This rice I've half cooked because if you put it in raw, sometimes all your seafood can overcook. I mean, traditionally they wouldn't half cook it, but I think it's a nice little adjustment to make. And this is just a medium grain rice as well. So on that goes as well. So now I've got a thin layer of rice on here. I've got to put it to the side just to make room because I've got to prep up some more ingredients. So here I just have some slices of roast pork, but you can use pork belly, or failing that you can use bacon if you want. But this gives it a beautiful flavour. The reason why it's got so many different food groups in this is because it's a peasant dish. So they used whatever they could get their hands on just to put up a hearty meal that didn't take much effort. And just like myself, not a fan of dishes, so it all just goes into one. It's my perfect dish. So roast pork. I think I've overdone it a bit here. That'll be plenty. And there's a lot of seafood in this because Spain is surrounded by sea. So like most countries like that, their cuisine is full of seafood dishes. This is your chance to make it look nice and pretty and presentable. So take your time, just making it all look very nice, like a little art piece. So in here I've got salmon and prawns, calamari, mussels, bit of bassa as well. I've got so many different flavours and textures. You can see why this is a very popular dish. So on it goes. Now with calamari, it's the old rule of really cook it really quick or really long. We're going for the latter here because 20 minutes for calamari is a really long time. So that will break down and be nice and tender as well. Once you've got that all beautiful on top, then put it back onto the heat. And then we're just going to add some water to it. So hot or boiling water is your best bet, just because it means it's going to cook quicker. So lid goes on, switch it down to low, and 20 minutes later you've got a surprise waiting inside. Take your lid off and it should look amazing, just like mine. You can see that all the liquid's been absorbed and all your seafood's cooked beautifully, but just to finish it off, a little bit of chopped parsley. This just gives a nice sort of fresh touch at the end. And parsley's always nicer fresh anyway, so give that just a rough chop. On that goes. And that smells and looks absolutely magnificent. But no time for a siesta, because you can't do a Spanish episode without churros, and that's coming after the break, so stick around.